What's going on, guys? Seth and Chevy here. We just watched episode 13 of season 1 of Delicious in Dungeon. We'll be going full spoilers ahead, so hopefully you've watched this episode as we are getting into the more interesting elements of this story that's unfolding. And we'll do a real quick recap. A lot of dialogue things happen in this episode, but basically, we got Fallon back. We've lost Fallon. She was summoned out of a window by what we now know as the Mad Mage, who is the person in the paintings that Laios had ran into earlier in the season. We got that confirmed by when they all came out looking for Fallon, and talked with the Mad Mage, who was sending Fallon to find something, or the dragon. What was that?
The dragon
detail?
was tasked with something.
Yeah.
And was told to complete their task.
Because the Mad Mage referred to her as the dragon.
Yeah.
So, but identified Laios based off of, seeing him in the paintings. Ends up turning into a situation where the Mad Mage started sending like blood dragon things after them.
Little whelplings.
Yep. And Marcel did her best to defend them from it, but she started going kind of crazy from the situation, which was kind of weird. Anyway, long story short, Mad Mage ends up dropping them into a hole and doing something to Fallon. It seemed like she was, or not she, he was turning her into a dragon or something.
Mentioning of
a different
saying
form.
that their form was inconvenient.
Yeah, so transforming Fallon into something. Very interesting. The party gets dropped into a hole, though. That is a trap. It's crushing in. They think they're going to die. And then a hole opens up and some ghosts pull them through it while they're trying to figure out what happened there. Chilchuck is walking out the door, runs into some orcs that are doing orc stuff. The orcs are ready to kill them, but then they, of course, recognize by scent, Senshi being the vegetable merchant, and knowing that who brought the brother?
I think
it was Senshi that brought the brother.
Yeah, he just explained their situation basically.
Yeah, so between the smell and also knowing the name of the brother, they decide these guys are cool. They're not going to kill them. Right before that, the leader orc was talking about killing the long-eared one because she hadn't killed one before. So that was interesting. Yeah, so while trying to figure out what they're going to do, they start kind of speculating on why this Mad Mage is even after them. They come to the point of, after killing the dragon, it basically was enough things happening in the dungeon where the Mad Mage had to come check what was going on. This freaks out Chilchuck. He's basically ready to leave. He doesn't want to die with these people. He wants the orcs to escort him back to his stuff, but they don't want to do that because he's a coward, basically. Senshi ends up backing him on, he's a coward, but he's a good guy. Will you do this? They decide to do that. Senshi's staying behind, though, because he's not going to leave Laios and Marcel. While Chilchuck's going back to his stuff, he talks with the orc leader and the orc escorts, basically, about their adventure. He's kind of going over all the stuff that he thinks they did that was stupid, but in a weird way is kind of reminiscing on their adventure. He ends up seeing a blood trail that leads somewhere. He also finds Laios' sword. They end up going back. And after basically getting to the point of saying not only does he not want to die down here, he doesn't want them to die down here as well. He's able to convince them to re-strategize their strategy and go back to the surface, restock, maybe get some support to come back down. Now that the Mad Mage is roaming around, they might be able to get support for that and hopefully rescue Fallon again, because they just did that. They're going to go back to the surface, which will be interesting. Thoughts?
It's crazy that they basically, got reunited and then immediately had that ripped away from them again. So
yeah.
I'm sure that's messing with them quite a bit. The episode itself was good. The information drops were pretty crazy, to be honest. I didn't connect it the prior episode when we saw the dark elf, that they were the ones from the paintings before, and they remembered Laios. So this is either some sort of time thing, or it's a, they just know that Laios was in the paintings. But the way they portrayed it was like they remember Laios always being there when trouble was stirring, and was part of the reason the king. Well, they've blamed Laios for being part of the reason that the kingdom fell. We also get their motivation to bring the king back, basically, while talking to the dead citizens of the town, which don't seem to be 100% aligned with the elf, because they're also they prevented the party from dying in the crushed walls, and then they also escort them around safe paths when they're in the town too.
Yeah, we got a lot of info on that. They're the citizens of that town. The orc leader said that they only show up when they want to be seen, and wherever they travel is safe at the time, wherever.
Yeah.
So there's some interesting stuff going on there. And yeah, in the beginning of the episode, it's implied by the Mad Mage that they didn't want them there or whatever. They're like, yeah, they're gone. But then later, they're helping them. So I don't know if they're all on the same page or they're different aspirations for the ghosts. Obviously,
I feel like
getting
they
mixed messaging.
understand that the Mad Mage is mad.
Yeah.
So and we keep getting shots of their face with darkened eyes. It has there's a lot of interesting elements in that, and I hope they explore it more. I'm sure they will. But it was also kind of interesting to see that the kind of the breakdown happening with Chilchuk as well, but that just turning into more of a, hey, like the situation sucks, we're not equipped for it, let's leave, please. He also didn't convey that well.
Well, he also wasn't being honest with himself.
Yeah,
because he was going for like, I need to survive, and then he's really just worried. He doesn't. You see this trope in a lot of animes anyway, but like he doesn't want to see his friends get hurt, so he's trying to run from that basically. And so yeah, it's kind of coming to terms with that. That whole long walk, talking with the orc about it, was interesting to kind of see that.
Yeah,
evolve,
and then be able to convey that and convince Laios, because Laios obviously is going to be invested due to his family member being the one they're after, and then again being teased with being reunited just for her disappeared. I'm also curious, though I think, not to bring it up too much, but the artwork for Core 2 has an image behind all the people, and I feel like that's Fallon. But whatever her new form is now, because she's presumably part dragon at this point, and that's what the elf sees in her at this point, and is able to control that part of her.
Yeah, that's what was interesting in the beginning, is I was like, does she know her? But then like I was thinking, I was like, oh, she's made from dragon. So
yeah, so it's interesting what the solution to that's going to be too. Because like, does she just eventually like get full willpower back? Do they have to defeat the Mad Mage to get her back? Like, what's the solution to that? Obviously. So, but anyways, yeah, a lot of stuff to think about from this episode, which has been great. As far as the food part goes, we got some hams that magically decided to reincorporate themselves with the remains of the dragon, and
I love how Senshi was just like packing those up and just doing his thing while Phelan went out the window, and then later they're just like rolling out the door and he's just staring at him, like he doesn't even say or do anything about it. They just roll by, and it was just a funny little moment.
Yeah. Oh, and Marcel, her whole moment where she was like, she could understand the spells, but like she couldn't. She's freaking out basically because she couldn't keep up with it.
Yeah. She's going crazy.
Obviously, she's a novice because she's been hiding that she understood it, up until last episode anyway. So, or one before or whatever.
Because she likes sketchy magic, as Chilchuk says.
Yep. Which apparently is just the Mad Mage's magic at this point. So, overall good episode. I'm very curious now where the story's gonna go. I'm glad. We had this huge question of, where does the show go? And they very quickly were like, all right, here's the next plot.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we're already going into it pretty quickly. Also, you had mentioned that they did some food stuff. The other food thing they did was the medicine that the orcs made, and a very hilarious scene where the orcs were doing it their way, and the orc leader was just spitting the medicine into their mouths.
Mom bird.
And watching Marcel watch it happen to Laios and then just slowly happen to her was hilarious.
Yeah, she was like hyperventilating.
Yeah. I just liked all the noises too that the orc was making, like just getting closer. That was funny. Yeah, it was a really good episode, and also a huge tonal change. The last episode and this episode is turning the show from, this funny dungeon show, which it still is, obviously, but now there's like stakes starting to get like introduced, even though people can die and get brought back, so it's not going to be super heavy. It is interesting to see that the gears are turning now in certain ways. A couple episodes into the early part of the season, we were like, oh, they're going to dungeons, they're eating food. That's the show. That's fun. And it still is that. But now we got more lore, an objective. What they completed before has now been taken from them. So it's really interesting to kind of see the show feel like it's just kind of starting now. Before it was like more of an introduction to these characters. And even in this episode, it was interesting to listen to Chilchuk and the orc talk about their adventures and his framing of Laios being dumb and gambling with his life, and the orc interpreting that as like courage. So it was a fun way to kind of reinterpret those events as like there is something to these people more than they come off kind of clumsy and funny and weird. It did take courage for Laios to fight the dragon like that and everybody else. So it's kind of cool. The episode
Marcel is a skilled mage, even though she's like doesn't want to participate in anything most of the time. So
well, in the early part of the show too, she couldn't do anything because they didn't need it.
Yeah.
So she felt useless, and she kind of came off useless. I was like, is she just going to be the butt of every joke?
Yeah.
In the beginning of the show, it's because her magic is needed for bigger things, basically. So, but when she has used it, it's been super. It's like she's way more useful than she was before because the stakes are higher. But yeah, the episode is actually really good. I liked it a lot. A lot of mystery in the beginning, a lot of tension after what we thought was like the big celebration. We got Fallon back. It's not that simple, I guess. Now we got the question mark with, more of the Mad Mage, even though we got a lot of questions answered in this episode with the Mad Mage. But now with Fallon, like what's going on with that? I do think it's going to be a situation where they're going to have to save her in some way. Probably have to defeat the Mad Mage. We already got the info that that book is the key to their power, basically, or at least they think it is. I do think the paintings and the history and the Mad Mage, I guess in the past, because they look a little different in those paintings, they look younger maybe, is a really interesting small little thing that happened earlier in the show that I thought was just like a funny event that happened. And when we're watching, I'm like, there seems to be a lot of history in these paintings for a quick joke.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, no, there's like a whole thing to that.
Literally the dungeon.
Yeah. It's really interesting. It's like not quite foreshadowing, but something similar to that. So that was cool. I also liked the lore drop on the ghosts. That was kind of cool to find out about because, we don't really know much about those or the people who lived in this place before. So now we know people lived there. Now they're ghosts. There's a whole kingdom. Obviously now it's, not what it was. Learning about the Mad Mage, basically running the dungeon, patrolling. They have their own ambitions.
Yeah, trying to get the king back.
And then, the whole Chilchuk thing was interesting. A little predictable in how that was going to go, but a good kind of recap of the prior half season we watched, and why those events mattered, and it's going to be really interesting to see that, as reluctant as they are to want to go to the surface, they're going to do it, apparently. And I think that'll make for some interesting situations, possibly. I don't know if they're just going to, skip to being on the surface instantly or if they're going to have to travel up there or not. But in that thing you're talking about, that image, I had looked at it. It showed a lot of characters that we've already seen already. So I think we're going to be seeing that one party with the kobold that's died twice now. I wonder if they're going to run into them again.
The dwarf gal.
The samurai dude.
Yeah.
They're on the image, so I'm wondering if they're going to be running into these people, or at least on the surface finding them.
Yeah, and also, if I remember right, the samurai dude, I think, is in love with Fallon, and so he'll probably have motivation to come now that it's confirmed she's alive and needs saving, basically.
Yeah.
He left before due to, I can't remember now. Anyways.
Yeah, I don't remember either. But he comes up a lot to not possibly get reintroduced again, and then he's in that image, so it makes sense.
Sure. He's over designed anyways. So.
Yeah. But yeah, really, really good episode. It really felt like the beginning of a new arc almost. And so that's exciting. And yeah, I've been really enjoying the show. Can't wait to find out what happens in the next episode. This show's got me constantly guessing. For a show that has a very simple premise, it's starting to get to the point where like the only thing I can predict is they're going to eat something at some point. But the story is turning in really interesting ways that I do want to know more about. And sometimes a little more clever than I expect as well. So pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, really good so far. This episode's been great. Can't wait to watch the rest of them. Glad we're getting a whole more chunk of episodes. So, because I've been really enjoying the show.
Yeah, I definitely prefer full seasons. Unfortunately, the norm these days is to do cores, which sucks. In fact, our next episode we'll be doing is one of those animes that only has a partial season. So,
Yeah.
though they did announce the next season of that today. So,
Okay. Well, it'll be nice though, because once they're done with that, I would like to watch Sandland,
yes,
and that's only like 8 episodes. But
8 or 10 or something like that.
yeah, and we'll watch that, and we'll just do a season review of it since it's all out right now, I guess. So,
yeah, we got to finish Tengoku at some point too.
yep, we got to do that as well. But that'll at least free up some time to dedicate to something, because I can only do 2 animes at a time. So otherwise, it's too much. I got too much on the plate. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for my opinions. You got anything else?
Nope.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think of this episode. What do you think about the things that are going on? What were some of the biggest highlights of this episode to you? What do you think about the Mad Mage? What's happening to Fallon? Unless you know, please don't tell us. No spoilers. We're watching this blindly. Appreciate it. But yeah, if you want to speculate or if you got any thoughts or whatever, let us know down in the comments. And stay tuned. We will have a review for Solo Leveling episode 12, I believe.
It doesn't
No, it's one behind this. This is 13. That was 12.
12.
Because they had that stupid half episode recap thing that we didn't
Oh,
watch.
right.
But I think this is the last episode of Solo Leveling.
Of this
12?
of this core, yeah.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. We'll be watching that, reviewing that right after this. And stay tuned as well, because like I said, we're going to be watching Sandland. I really want to check that out, especially in the passing of Akira Toriyama. Rest in peace. Fucking legend. Everybody felt that one. So it'd be really cool to see one of his stories in a modern lens, a new version of it. And yeah, Tengoku, Demon Slayer coming out at some point. May. So we got a little bit for that, but we will definitely be watching that. But yeah, I've been said this with Chevy, and we'll see you on the next review.